So when life throws you lemons, make lemonade. Shane is a great example of this. Actually went to elementary school together, high school together, and then I saw him on Instagram and he started a business and he has an incredible story. I'm actually one of his students right now and he has over 400 students. He's sharing his knowledge and he's actually changing lives. So introducing Shane.
All right, thank you everyone. First of all, big round of applause for these two people that have just put on an amazing So for those of you that don't know me, or you might know me, my name is Shane Cannell-Cohen, born and raised in Montreal, Canada, my whole entire life. I had a very regular life. Went to school, elementary school, high school, college, and eventually I went to university. And with that, I ended up running into a little bit of problems. The pandemic hit. And coming from a regular family, middle-class family, they're all corporate workers, they were a little bit concerned for me when I started to display a little bit of discomfort with the pandemic and what happened. Now, we all had the same pandemic. 8 o'clock curfews, had to get locked in my home like I was some sort of child. And with that, I also realized something really important, was that I never want to be in a position where my income, my mental state, my physical state is affected by certain factors that are beyond my control. And the government literally took all of that away from us. They took away the whole entire gyms, they took away the ability to go into school, and I was still paying the same tuition for recycled videos from Concordia at JMSB, and all of a sudden I'm supposed to still do exams and still get the same quality of learning that I was supposed to be getting. Now, what ended up happening is I actually ended up dropping out of school. I had 2 semesters left. I ended up dropping out of finance because I just didn't feel like it was for me. Now fast forward to today, I own 3 companies. I am the CEO of both of those companies. One of them is an education company, currently evaluated at 7 figures. Another one is an e-commerce business, currently evaluated at 7 figures as well. And the other one is a different type of business, and that's evaluated at 6 figures. But throughout that process that I went through, of shifting from a regular school student to where I am today, not much actually really took place. But what you all need to realize is that it's not about the vehicle, right? How I first got started in this space, when I thought about what happened during the pandemic, can someone tell me, what was the one thing that made the most amount of money in the pandemic? Can someone just tell me? Anyone?
Amazon.
Amazon. Now, can anybody take a wild guess off the top of your head? I'll give you a $50 Amazon gift card. How many units did Amazon sell every single second during the pandemic? Any guess?
250.
Who said 250? 50, okay, any other guesses? Closest number without going over. No other guesses? 1,000? 5 million, okay. So Amazon sold actually 163 products every single second during the pandemic. So it's pretty mind-boggling to say the least, in a time where the economy was generally considered in a recession. But what ended up happening is Amazon actually made $21 billion. So instead of me thinking to myself, I was at home scrolling on Amazon, purchasing God knows what, instead of spending money with Amazon, why can't I actually make money with them? Because a lot of people like to, oh, Amazon, I don't like them, big corporate company. But if you can't beat them, just join them at the end of the day. So throughout that process, I shared my whole entire journey on Instagram. Okay, Shane.ecom is my Instagram. If you want to give me a follow, absolutely go ahead. I'll follow you back. But as I started that whole entire process, I started to recognize that other people started to reach out to me also. I shared my journey just because I wanted to share it out there with people. And then individuals started to tell me, hey, I want to get into this. Or hey, I paid another e-commerce coach $10,000 and I didn't get anything out of it. Which obviously is a big problem. Okay, we're all aware of e-com, the scams that exist. There are different things out there that you all need to be very, very mindful before getting into something like this. But what's truthfully important is that if you can stack the odds in your favor of getting into something where you know with good likelihood that you're going to be successful, there's no reason why you can't be able to achieve what you want to achieve. So from my perspective, what ended up happening is I started my Amazon business right after I dropped out of JMSB. I decided, you know what, this is not for me, and I took the leap. And I gave myself a plan A and a plan A only. I didn't give myself any other option to be able to have an exit plan or go back to school. I just said, you know what, I'm gonna make this work. In 30 days, I ended up doing $10,000 in sales. In 3 months, I ended up doing $50,000. In 7 months, I did $100,000 in sales. And then last year in 2023, I did $1.23 million with my Amazon store. In 2024, we're on set to do $3 million. Now, like what Chantal mentioned, is I do also run an education company. And at this moment right now, I'm currently coaching 478 people. That's a lot of people, right, to say the least. And considering in the capacity which I run my business is not to just tell people, hey, take a video or watch a course and you should be good to go. It's to hold their hand. Because for every single one of us inside of this room right now, how you learn best is to not have someone tell you to do it, but to show you, have real application. And that's what a lot of people in the e-commerce space miss nowadays, is they want to offer a product, they want to offer a solution, but they don't actually take the time, take the effort to be invested in that person as if it were to be their actual own business. So 478 students I have, I basically consider them to be my own stores. That's my perception in which I actually have for all of my students, because that's how I know I can actually help them best. Now, as I started to scale my Amazon business, I had a lot of people start to question what I was doing. Is it real? Is it not real? And truth be told, I actually got audited by Revenue Quebec the first year that I got my taxes. Going from someone who was earning about $20,000 a year to earning a lot more, they obviously had to take a final look at everything. But I don't say that to scare you, I just say that because it is a little bit, out of the ordinary to start something that what you might feel like is outside of the 9 to 5, let's say, for example. And by no means is it going to be easy. For any of you that want to get into something, it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. It's going to be more worth it than you slaving at a job for 50 years for minimum pay and being overworked, rather than being your own boss, pulling all-nighters. It's going to be better for you to be able to do that because you're in control. You don't want to leave your income. You don't want to leave your family in a position where you don't know how you're going to provide for them if, let's say, for example, another recession happens. So the reason why, for me, Amazon was just the best way to get into an area where I can become my own boss was because the form in which I sell on Amazon is actually never requiring me to have any inventory. So I don't hold any inventory. I don't have to pay 3 to 4 different fees to Amazon to utilize their fulfillment warehouses. So for those of you that are familiar, this is not Amazon FBA. But second to that, I also don't have to spend any money on ads. So as a broke university student, I was like, okay, well, why not, right? It's a win-win scenario. If I listed a product on Amazon and no one bought it, I lose nothing. So in that retrospect, what you all need to realize is when you're starting to get into something, how can you get in something that mitigates risk? Risk management is really, really important because when I started, I had $500. If I had wasted that $500, I would have been screwed, to say the least. So my priority is when I get into something, when I decide I want to make an investment in a coach, in a course, and a mentor, which I've spent $85,000 of my own money over the last 4 years in mentorships, masterminds, and so on. Currently, I'm just paying $2,000 a month to be a part of an inner circle community of like-minded individuals. And how I value my investments, how I evaluate these things, is just utilizing 3 certain things that I actually really want to be able to do. So how many of you right now are currently earning less than $10,000 a month? Raise your hand. No shame. That's totally fine. Okay. So we're earning less than $10,000 a month. First, what you need to realize is that you have to pay your ignorance debt. There is a certain debt that you're going to have to pay that at some point in time, it's either you're going to avoid it as best as you possibly can, or you're going to confront it and you're going to make it happen. So what exactly is the ignorance debt? If we want to earn $10,000 a month, really, really simple, and I'm currently earning $3,000 a month, my ignorance debt that I have to pay down is $7,000. So every single month that I don't invest $7,000, it's costing me $7 grand, not knowing how to make $10,000 a month. And a lot of people don't recognize that. A lot of people go to YouTube, and don't get me wrong, YouTube is really, really good. But the thing is that it's going to skew in many different directions. And if you want to be able to not pay with your time, which is your most valuable asset, you have to understand you have to honestly just pay with your money. Because with paying with your money, that's going to save you the time of you doing whatever it is that you wanted to be able to get into, but just doing it in a much, much shorter time period. And as I've gone through this process, I've also recognized that the three things I look at, first and foremost, is my perceived likelihood of outcome. How likely am I going to be able to get what I want out of what I'm going to invest in? Many different variables. Okay? It's not just about Amazon, it's about real estate, anything else that you guys want to get into. What that basically means is there many different people that have been able to go through what I went through that have been successful with this. So when I looked at Amazon, I thought about, well, were there other students that dropped out of university that was able to do exactly what I did? I was able to find some, yes, and I was not able to find it. But with that, from all of your perspective, you guys know that there's a lot of courses out there. There's a lot of things online, affiliate marketing, there's all a bunch of different types of stuff, trading. You have to recognize that is your results going to be guaranteed? And if you can figure out that there's a form of guarantee in which you can be able to get into any sort of business with minimal risk and still have it pay off for you, there's no reason why you should not be able to get into that. But you also have to recognize the time delay. How long is it going to take every single one of you to get to where you want to be? Because when I pay with my time, right, I'm paying maybe 12 months, let's say, for example, of going through YouTube videos. When I pay with my money, I want to make that happen a lot faster. I want to make that happen in a position where usually 90 days or less. And for me, how I got to my first 100K per month, all I had to really do is I had to invest $10,000. That's what I had to do. I had to invest my first $10,000 to be able to do that, to be able to get me to that perspective. And once I did that, I also recognized that there's a lot of effort and sacrifice that you all have to go through. Every single one of you here, you're not afraid of hard work. I understand that. Hard work is not going to make you financially free. I know it's kind of shell-shocking, but it really won't. You have to have leverage. Okay? What leverage basically means, instead of you putting in 1 hour of work and getting $20 an hour, right? How can I get 1 hour of work done and get $500 out of it? How can I disproportionately skew how much money I'm able to make for the amount of time that I put in? And when I put this in the perspective of an Amazon business, if I want to sell an iPhone, let's say, for example, and I list it today, every single minute someone buys something off of Amazon. Like I told you guys, there was 163 units every second that were sold. So my leverage is listing something that might take me 30 minutes, but in the end of it, it can sell for the next 3 months on end for me. So when you think about anything you want to get into, think about that leverage. Are you required to be involved into something every single day? Right? Much like what they mentioned about their product, it was very much face-to-face. Right? It was very physically taxing on them. Well, how can I get into something that's not so physically taxing, that doesn't require 1 hour of input to get $20, let's say, for example? How can I put that in my favor? And as you go through this process, what you're going to be able to realize is the more you pay, the more you invest into something, the more you're going to be able to get out of it. Now, for many of you, if you don't have money to invest, that's not a problem. I didn't have money to invest. But you have to be willing to understand that the trade-off you're going to make is going to be your time. You're going to have to pay with your time. That's undoubtedly what's going to end up happening. And when I went through it, it took me 30 days of nothing but hard work to be able to actually get to my first $10,000. Evidently, 7 months, I got to $100,000, which was great. And last year, my income from all three of my businesses was $482,000 and some change. Decent amount of money. If you told a guy 4 years ago that he was going to be earning that amount of money, he would not believe you. Right? But what I recognize is the only way I was able to do that is by two things. Right? So I mentioned the ignorance debt. You have to pay off that ignorance debt. If I wanted to earn X amount of money, I invested $85,000 of my own money into mentors, into coaches, following that exact framework on how I evaluate my investments. But also with that, there's basically 4 points in life that every single one of you are going to go through. Now, I wish I had a diagram here, but I don't. Let's envision a pyramid. Okay, so in a pyramid, there's 4 different layers to it. On the bottom layer, this is called survival. So survival is basically where I was. Survival, to put in the context of everyone's day-to-day lives, you're working paycheck to paycheck. You're not going out to fancy restaurants. Maybe one vacation per year, let's say, for example, you go to an all-inclusive resort, but you're kind of just in a position where there's a lot of pressure on your shoulders. And for me, I utilized that pressure as I was still living at home. I was still doing everything from my bedroom in my parents' house. I utilized that pressure to get into the next phase. And shifting into that next phase is comfort. So when you're at survival, it's really easy to get out of there because you're put under a lot of pressure. We all have bills to pay, some of us have kids. So that pressure allows you to be able to produce diamonds. I know it's cliche, but it's true. But as you go through that process, you're gonna get into comfort. Now comfort it's all about perspective, right? Where I'm at right now, I'm in comfort, right? I'm comfortable, generally speaking. The reason why is because it's a product of who I'm surrounded by. So I mentioned to you guys that I pay $2,000 a month to be part of a mastermind inner circle group. Those people are doing easily over $1 million every single month with their businesses. So I envision myself, from my perspective, I'm at comfort. But comfort is also one of the easiest places to stay in for an extended period of time because you're comfortable. Doing anything that's necessary for change is not going to be comfortable, and you all want to stay in exactly your position that you're in right now. A really, really good book that you can utilize to help you get out of that comfort zone, Maximum Achievement by Brian Tracy. That's one book that can completely shift your mindset in regards to how you get out of that comfort level. But when you're in comfort, it's pretty self-explanatory. You're doing everything that you have to do, paying bills, going out to a restaurant every now and then, going out with friends, maybe one or two, let's say for example, vacations a year, maybe a nicer car, maybe you get a new bigger place, let's say, but and nothing that you really own is luxurious at that certain point. Now beyond comfort, there's two other levels that will come. And you guys cannot go from survival all the way up to the third point. You gotta go through each and every single point, and it's going to take time. But when you recognize it does take time, that's the most important factor because you're not gonna be so pressed to do it in 90 days. You're not gonna be so pressed to expect you to do it in 3 months, and then you jump ship. Because a big problem that I see with a lot of people when they come into e-commerce, when they wanna learn about Amazon, let's say for example, is they wanna say, okay, I wanna make 100 grand in 15 days. And I tell them, there's the door. Because I'm not here to sell you a dream, right? I'm here to tell you what the reality is. And a lot of people oftentimes go from one thing to another, to another, to another, to another, because they don't know what's really gonna work for them. And as we go throughout that process, the next level of comfort after that is excess. Excess is basically where you're living good, okay? You're living lavish. Right? Let's say you go out to very, very fancy restaurants, you have no problem paying $1,000 bills, let's say for example, and you're in a really good position, you have exotic cars, maybe you have a couple watches, your Amex bills tend to get into like $50,000 a month, and you pay them off all in full. And excess is a level that very few of us can actually end up reaching, in all honesty. But it's all about perspective. So for some of you, earning $482,000 in a single year sounds like a lot. But again, it's all about who you're surrounded with and what you're comparing yourself to. So after excess, there's also abundance. This is where Jeff Bezos lives. This is where Grant Cardone lives. This is where Tony Robbins, all those big players that you see, Alex Hormozi, this is where they live. And getting to abundance is not about money. The theme of this whole entire conference is financial freedom. Financial freedom is about also buying back your time. How much time do you actually spend on a day-to-day to earn money? And Jeff Bezos, Alex Hormozi, Grant Cardone, all those individuals are not doing it for the money anymore. They're doing it for the generational wealth. They're doing it to make a name for themselves, to say the least. But they're also doing it so that way they can spend their life how they actually want, how it's truthfully deserved to be lived. Because you're not meant to be in a cubicle for the next 50 years. You're not meant for that. You're meant to do something that you really, really have the enjoyment of doing. And for me, from my perspective, that's coaching a lot of people. That's running my e-commerce business. That's talking to different types of people and attending different masterminds because I'm able to get in a position where I can always be a student of the game. So I'm here today to speak to you guys and spread my knowledge to every single one of you. But I'm also here to learn. Right? I'm also here to learn from every single speaker that's here and every single one of you that I may or may not talk to. Right? Because even if I do earn a considerable amount of money on an annual basis, great. But it doesn't mean I stop learning. Because I don't want to be stuck in that comfort level. I have to push myself beyond my boundaries in which I'm actually at right now to transcend from one level to another. And if I can possibly do that, then yeah, maybe I'll get into excess. Maybe a lot of you can get out of survival into comfort. But the only way that you can be able to do that is by betting on yourself and no one else only. Let me make it really, really clear. I have my girlfriend of 10 and a half years here with me. She's the only person that has been supporting me throughout this whole entire process of me building 3 really, really successful companies. I'll be honest with you, my family was not 100% supportive of this process of me dropping out of school. But as I went through that process, what ends up happening is I didn't rely on anybody else. I didn't rely on my family. I didn't rely on the government. I didn't rely on the traditional school system that has failed so many different people to be able to produce results for themselves. I did it all on myself. Right? And much like Chantal said, we've known each other since elementary school, which is a really, really long time. And who I was in elementary school and who I am today is 2 different types of people. But the only way that that has happened is because I didn't rely on school. I didn't rely on other things or other people and what their opinions of what I did and who I am today to get in the way of what I actually wanted to be able to do. Because the small incremental steps that I took along the way, dropping out of school is not a small step, it's a big step. But also looking up about Amazon, also deciding to create my first program about teaching other people, all those little steps lead to that bigger goal. And for me, that bigger goal obviously is to, in all honesty, make a shit ton of money. That's just what my bigger goal is. And all of your version of success is going to differ from person to person. But if all of you can get in a position where you're stacking your odds in your favor to get into something that you know with a lot of confidence you can be successful with, and on top of that, you're not afraid of paying that ignorance debt, there's no reason why you can't be able to get in the position that you truthfully want to. And like I said, guys, it's not going to be easy, to say the least, but it's going to be worth it. And if you go into the expectation of knowing that it's not going to be easy, you're not going to be afraid of any hard work, and you're not going to be afraid of the issues that are going to be thrown your way that turn you into an entrepreneur to a business owner. Because there are certain things that will slap you in the face when you get into entrepreneurship that will really, really hit hard. And only going through those things are hard learning experiences, but at the end of the day, those are the most crucial experiences that every single one of you have to go through because it's pushing you outside of your comfort zone. The only reason why you end up getting uncomfortable into something is because, let's say for example, coming here today, it's uncomfortable to a certain extent, speaking to people that you never really ever actually spoken with before, people that aren't actually your friends. But it's because it's something that you've never done before. And in order for you to be able to become the new version of who you actually really want to be, you have to do those things that you haven't previously done. And if you do those, if you focus on owning yourself, much like what I was able to do, then there's no reason why you can't be able to get to where you want to be, no matter what your vehicle is. Let me be clear, my vehicle was Amazon. Well, your vehicle could be real estate. Your vehicle can be forex trading. It could be building an education company or an app, let's say, for example. It can be anything that you actually put your mind to. But when it comes to the perspective of recognizing where you are in your life, if you recognize where you are, if you understand that right now I'm in survival, do as much as you possibly can to get out of there. When you're in comfort, it's a very comfortable position to be in, but do as much as you possibly can to still put yourself under voluntary pressure. So my last point to you guys is putting yourself under that voluntary pressure, because a lot of us might be comfortable right now. To be clear, I will never let my bank account go above $100,000, ever. Never in my life. Okay, every single time that goes anything above $100,000, let's say for example, it automatically gets put into TFS payments. It automatically gets put into another form of investment. Why? Because even if I'm comfortable right now, I'm putting myself in the position to be under pressure. Because anything below $100,000, I'll start to freak out. Right? I'll start to get anxious. I'll start to have that hustle, that drive that I really need to make shit happen for myself. And you putting yourself under that pressure, right? It's artificial for me right now. But when I dropped out of school, it was very, very real. And if you can create these scenarios inside of your head, you trick your brain into thinking that, yeah, I'm under a lot of pressure at this certain point right now, well, you're gonna do as much as you possibly can to get out of it. Because obviously, being under pressure is not comfortable, but it's what's necessary. So as I went throughout my process of building those 3 companies and getting in a position right now where I'm helping a lot of different other types of people, I also really focused on impact. All right, a lot of you might provide services to other individuals, whether it's the form of selling, whether it's the form of, let's say, for example, personal training, if it's, let's say, giving them hairstyles, nail techs, whatever it might possibly be. You have to focus on the user experience and building impact in other people's lives. And building impact in other people's lives is not so much about a monetary figure to a certain extent. It's about the experience that they go through and the relationship that you build with that particular person. So let's say, for example, if you're in real estate, much like what Alex is in, I'm sure he recognizes the power of relationships, right? The power of referrals. If you have a good relationship with one of your clients, then what ends up happening is they easily refer you to another person. Right? And this goes into every single industry that you may or may not have. And as you start to begin that process, you focus more on the user experience and how easy it is for someone to step into a realm that is unknown, let's say, for example, or to step in a realm wherein, let's say, they're not entirely sure how it's actually going to work out. You're there to give them the confidence that you're going to do everything in your ability to make it work. You're there to give them, as a real estate agent, the best interest rate possible. You're there to put them in a perspective where they know, at the end of the day, that they're going to be taken care of. And how I've built my education company of 478 people at this point is just by focusing on that. Right? I do have assistant coaches with me, of course, that are part of my team that help me handle that flow. But in the beginning, it was only me. And as it was only me, I focused on having 478 real connections with individuals, getting to know their lives, getting to know the relationships, and how I can actually help them best, and what success looked like for them. And as I did that, I was able to be rewarded for it handsomely, to say the least. I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.